Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Faber Castell Polychromos color pencils. Now this is a long awaited review in case you missed it. I hauled these pencils several weeks, maybe months ago actually, on this channel, and I know you might say it's been a long time, maybe it's been too long, but I am not the type of person when I do a review that I just do a first impression. You know, I really want to spend some time with the product and really put it through the paces. That way I can give you the most fair and comprehensive review possible. And that's what I hopefully, my goal is to achieve today. So in this video, real quick, let me give you a rundown of what you can expect. So today's review, we're going to be taking a look at pencil quality, the texture, we're going to be taking a look at the claims that these pencils make, pigment strength, Lightfast information, the star rating that they have. We're going to be taking a look at the color selections because I have swatched each and every one of these pencils out, and I'll show you that chart in just a moment. Where I think they need some improvement in terms of selection and a couple of things, price and availability, comparisons to other pencil brands as well as to other pencils within the Faber Castell line. We're also going to be talking about what papers to use, or which ones I like to use with these pencils, what my recommendations are, and kind of specifically who these pencils might be good for and who they might not be good for. So we're going to take a look at all of that today. Real quick before we get started, if you haven't already and you'd like to, hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any more videos. And give me a thumbs up because it really helps out my channel. Now, I'm going to be, in terms of talking about the comparisons, which we'll get to a little bit later, I'm going to be comparing these pencils to the Prismacolors because they're the most kind of popular, more well-known pencil brands, but I've also did a comparison on my Instagram account as sort of a review for the Winsor & Newton color pencils, and I compared them to those. So if you'd like to check that out, I'll leave the information for my Instagram account in the links down below in case you were interested to see that. But today we're going to be comparing them to the leading brand, which is the Prismacolor pencils, excuse me. So let's talk about some of the claims for these pencils. It says soft, vibrant color laydown, high quality pigments in bright colors, unsurpassably light fast and acid free, all very good claims so far. Leads are bonded to prevent breakage, and I can absolutely say that claim is true. I have never had a Faber Castell pencil break. Thick oil-based lead, water resistant, and smudge proof. Now that claim, I have to say, is not true. They definitely do smudge a little. Being oil-based, I've had them smudge around a little bit on me. So when you first get your pencils, this is the 120 set, but I actually started with the 24 color set, and I liked them so much that I expanded. So I have really had some experience with these, so I can definitely give you the benefit of my experience in this review. And quickly, I would like to mention that if you were looking into getting a smaller set of these, the 24 set is so well balanced, so well composed and put together that if you were only able to afford a limited set, I think you'd be very happy with the 24 set. I truly do, because you get all of the warm and cool primaries, a warm and cool version of each primary. You get some very usable greens, some nice selection of earths and grays. So it's very well put together, and I found that I was able to do a lot with this limited set. So I would recommend the limited set to you if you couldn't afford this large set. So no matter what set you get, you are going to get it in a nice durable tin. I have a lot of experience with their tins, as you just saw. I've got this tin, I've got the Faber Castell 60 pastel pencil tin, the smaller tins, and I can tell you that their tins are always excellent quality and they really do hold up. No matter what set you get, they're very transparent in terms of the information that they give the artist. So each color that you will receive is on the back, as well as the Lightfast information, that star rating, which is really unique. So, not every brand, I'm sad to say, does that. So when you first open them up, you're going to get a little leaflet of information about the brand and a little flyer, a little ad for the watercolor pencils. Each of the trays is relatively sturdy. They're not as tipsy as like the Prismacolors. I found I couldn't even use them because they would tip all over. These ones are a bit more sturdy, and they have these kind of elastic bands, kind of like hair ties if you're familiar with those. And underneath, which I can't show you because I'd have to tip it over, there is like a very soft foam which cushions the next set of pencils so you're not damaging the tips, and I think that's really smart. So you get 120 colors in the full range, as you can see, and many of them are very, very lovely. All of them are Lightfast except for 2. Now, each of the pencils does have the information on them. You get the color name as well as the number and the star rating for the light fastness on each and every pencil, so you don't have to go searching or hunting for that every time you sit down to do your artwork, which is excellent. And the Pitt Pastel pencils have that as well. So all of their pencils do have that. So let's get into the colors. Now, I do have them all swatched out. Here we go. Let me put that off to the side. So this is all the colors swatched out for the full 120 set. And if you take a look here, you can see that they're very vibrant, very punchy colors. Some of them, or most of them, are transparent, and that's because these pencils are an oil-based pencil. They're not a wax-based pencil, so they're not creamy and opaque in the same way. But what that means is that there's a potential to do glaze effects, and some of the colors are even labeled as yellow glaze, orange glaze, etc. So it opens the door to have more depth and realism in your work. Also, because they're an oil-based pencil, the core is quite a bit firmer, which can be an advantage because you're not going to use your pencils up as quickly, and you're also going to find that you're able to get finer details, and they'll sharpen to a finer point. But the disadvantage of that is that if you have hand pain, arthritis, or any kind of issues like that, you may find that these won't be your pencil because they'll exhaust your hands much quicker. So this color selection is absolutely beautiful. There was only a couple colors that I wasn't completely happy with. This pink 119, it's very bubblegum, very unnatural, but it's not Lightfast either, and I put an X next to the ones that were not Lightfast. 160 is not Lightfast, and that's it, just those 2. So everything else here is a 2 or a 3 star. Most of them are a 3 star, so that is absolutely excellent, and I couldn't ask for more. Even these really vibrant teals and greens, the reds, the oranges, everything you see here, with the exception of these 2, are suitable for professional artwork. So these really are geared toward the professional artist, or the fine artist, the advanced artist, I would absolutely say, and the price point reflects that. However, bear in mind, they are fine quality pigments, they are Lightfast, and you're going to pay a premium for such qualities. The earth tones, most of them are very good, but a few of them I did find to be just a little wimpy. And I thought there could be an improvement there. But in terms of the color selection, as I went through and I was working with them, one thing that I found consistently true was that there wasn't a lot of lighter tints and pastel-like colors. And for demonstrative purposes, I went ahead and I brought out my set of pastels, pan pastels in the tints shade, just to show you an example of what I'm talking about. These are an example of tints. So you've got all these light kind of pastel, baby soft colors here. And if you're somebody who likes to use shades like this a lot in your work, you might be disappointed with the color selection here. You're going to have to pull that in from another source because it's just not here. Now, of course, alternatively, you can mix a lot, and they do give you that white. However, their white is rather transparent, and so it's going to be a little bit difficult, and you're not always going to be able to mix every single time. There will be times where you'll need just that, you know, straight color, you know, for fine hairs or details or whatever, you're not going to be able to blend, and you're going to want just that pure color right from the pencil, and the lighter shades aren't going to be there. Now, I was working on a very light floral piece, and I found that I had to do so much mixing with the white, and it did become kind of a bother. So that's the only thing. I wish they would like come out with an expanded color range and maybe do like a 24 set and call it the tints, because that would really make everything so much more versatile. They're also a little bit short on extra dark, like chromatic extra dark colors. Like this is what they're calling dark red number 225. It could be darker, you know what I mean? Like that's really not a dark red. It's really not, you know, super extra dark and saturated. There's really, this is like the darkest purple that they have. They do have a relatively dark blue, so that's nice, and they do have some relatively dark greens, but I would love to see a very expanded color range in these. But again, you can mix so much, so that might not be an issue for you. So another one of the claims that the company makes is that these pencils are part of a unique color matching system that encompasses all Faber Castell products. And the pencils that I have from their brand that I can talk about here are the Pit Pastel pencils. This claim only becomes important to you, and you can skip past this part if it's not, but it only becomes important if you're like a mixed media artist and that was a selling claim for you. You wanted to use the pastel pencils in conjunction with the colored pencils or the watercolor pencils. Let's say you wanted to use these over them or something. And it has been my experience that most of them do match up very, very well. So I gave some examples of that here on this chart that I made up here. This is 109 in the pastel pencil, 109 in the colored pencil. Very similar. I can't complain about that. This is 151. I can see that this is darker and more red in person. I don't know how well that will translate on camera. 149, 168, 124. Very, very close, and I can see they made a real effort. But the one problem kind of becomes, if it's all a color matching system and all the same pigments are used, I'm very unsure how, and I've got some examples of it here, and it's worth taking to note that, for example, this color is called Rose Carmine 124, and I've got it in both the pastel pencil and the colored pencil. In the colored pencil, it's a Lightfast of 3, and in the pastel pencil, it's only a Lightfast of 1, which to me is fugitive. So I'm not sure why overlapping colors, and this is kind of a consistent issue. For example, all of the greens in the Polychromos color pencils are a Lightfast of 3, all of them. But many of them are only a Lightfast of 1 in the Pit Pastel pencils. And this is number 174, and that's a perfect example of that. So that's a little bit odd to me and something that's worth taking note of. And I strongly kind of suspect that the case is probably the same in the watercolor pencils as well. Okay, so what I've done is I've zoomed down here because I want you to get a close look at these pencils. I'm comparing them here to Prismacolors. Now, one thing to be 100% honest about is that the Polychromos, like I said, they are an oil base, but the Prismacolors are a wax base, so they're not going to be, you know, exactly the same, but I did want to compare them for color strength purposes. So I compared 107 to Canary Yellow, very similar, 249 to the Violet from Prismacolor, also very similar, and the case is the same for all of them. In terms of the pigment strength, they're both very saturated and very, very lovely, but the main difference between the two, besides the difference in, you know, wax to oil base, is that the color released much more easily and readily in the Prismacolor. So again, if you suffer from hand pain or any kind of issues like that, you may want to reconsider because it might not be your pencil. You're going to still get that bold, punchy, saturated color, but you're going to have to work a little bit harder and take more time building it up. So that's up to you, up to your discretion, whether you know if it's right for you or not. Personally, for me, I wouldn't do an entire piece in Prismacolor. I rather the Polychromos color pencils because they're the harder core, they are more difficult to get the color, and You know, one thing that we talk about in music and in singing is we talk about preserving your instrument. And what we mean by that is using proper vocal technique, vocal rest being just as important as practice, etc. You have to preserve your instrument in order to ensure the longevity of doing what you love. And I use this analogy a lot as an artist because I think it applies in this part of my life as well. My hands are my instruments, and they might be for you as well if you're an artist. So I really shied away from doing full color pencil pieces, but especially with the Polychromos. Now that's not an issue for me, and it might not be for you if you're doing more mixed media things. I bought these color pencils to use in combination with my pan pastels. I saw a lot of lovely artists here on YouTube doing that. They're very, very compatible. And because they're an oil-based pencil, they don't have as much shine as the wax-based. So I find it's a smoother integration. So because the reflection, you know, there's no reflection at all from pastels. They're chalky, they're powdery rather, and they're very matte. So there's a difference in finish when you're introducing like a waxy pencil, but these really just smoothly transition into the pencils and they're into the pastels, and they're very compatible. So that's what I bought these Polychromos color pencils for. I wanted to use them with a mixed media technique with the pan pastels. So over here I did a little bit of color mixing. I wanted to get some color blends. I used from 151, which is a warm kind of ultramarine red blue, to the magenta 133, and I did get a lovely violet in between. I took a cool yellow 104 and I mixed it to the cool blue, which was phthalo blue 110, and in between I did get a very lovely saturated green. So the pigments do mix cleanly, which gives you the potential for cleaner, you know, a lot of mixing. But again, I really do wish they had more of those like pastel shades so you didn't have to mix as much. Here I wanted to show you the difference between the Prisma white and the Faber white. The Faber Castell white is very transparent, and I hope you're able to see that on camera, which is nice to have for certain things because I do like to have two variations of the white in my work. I think I've said that before, no matter what the medium is. But again, I don't think this could be your only white by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's going to cut it for you. Okay, so at this point what I wanted to go ahead and talk about was some of my paper recommendations. Now, this paper here that I've swatched these out on is the Arches 140 pound hot press watercolor paper. If you like to do a lot of fine detail work in color pencil, hot press is going to be the paper for you. It's very smooth, so you're going to be able to get those fine lines and details, but it has enough grab to it that you're going to be able to get a decent amount of layers, and because it's watercolor paper, it's going to hold up to solvents really, really well, especially if you like to solvent blend. That's something that you want to keep in mind and think about. Also, if you're purchasing these pencils, I'm going to assume that you're an advanced artist or a serious, maybe professional artist, so you're going to want to think about the archival quality of your work, and this paper is archival because it's 100% cotton rag. Now, I also would like to recommend, and maybe not everybody knows about this, I like to use pastel matte paper, and I've got a scrap of that here. What I did is I just did kind of like a rainbow blend across several pencils. I use solvent to blend, so it's not perfect, but I just wanted to use it as an example of not only how vibrant the colors are on this paper, but the most important thing to take note of, and the biggest selling point for me to use color pencil on pastel matte paper, is that because it's got that really fine, like fibrous kind of thing going on with it, it grabs the pencil, really grabs that pigment, so that you don't have to work so hard. It's much easier on your hands. So this is a great paper, and it's also really good if you want to use mixed media technique, like if you want to layer these pencils over the pan pastels. This paper, this pastel matte paper is your paper. This is the one you're going to want to use because it's been my experience that the pan pastels do the best on this paper also. And I will be doing a review on the pan pastels coming up very soon on this channel, where I'll give a demonstration of how I like to layer the two. So if you'd like to stick around for that, make sure that you subscribe so you won't miss that. So those are the papers that I recommend. Now, you can also get very fine sanded papers. If you're going to be using color pencil, you want some of the finest that you can possibly get, and they do come in different grits. UArt, I know, comes in like so many varieties, so you really have a lot of options with paper. I've even seen some artists use cold pressed watercolor paper, but I personally wouldn't recommend that because you're going to really eat through your pencils that way, and it's going to be very difficult to get fine details. So that's my recommendation there. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about is availability and price. So these pencils are available in sets of 6, 12, 24, 36, 60, and 120, which is what you saw I had here. They also have a 120 box set that you can buy. It's like a wooden box set, but the price doubles just for that wooden box set, and I really would steer you away from that. They're also available open stock, which is very, very important. I never purchase an art supply, whether it's pencils, pastel, whatever it is. If you can't get them open stock, it's not worth it, because let's say you really love this green and you use it up, you'd have to buy a whole nother set. Not the case here. They're all available open stock, and they go between $1.79 and $2.85 a pencil, depending on where you go. The current price at Blick is $1.79 a pencil, which is pretty decent. And as I've said, the pencils don't break. I've had no issues with breaking with these, and Prismacolor, let's not even talk about it. You know what I mean? So I did want to give a couple suggestions to what you should do if you do plan investing in a set of these. The first thing that you should do whenever you get a big set home, go through the pencils and start sharpening them randomly. You don't have to sharpen every pencil 120, but pick a couple, a good assortment from every tray, sharpen them up. If they break, or if the core falls out, or if you notice they're not lined up, the core's not centered, send the pencils back, because you'll never have a good experience with these pencils. Now, I'm not saying I've ever had that happen with a Faber Castell pencil, because I haven't, but it is possible that they could get banged around in shipping really hard, or that they could get dropped, and if the core breaks, it'll keep falling out when you go to sharpen it, and you'll never have a good experience with them. So send them back and exchange them. And that's good advice for any pencils that you might happen to be considering. I think these pencils are geared really toward the fine artist. Now, I'm not saying if you're an adult coloring book person, if you're an artist that likes to work in adult coloring books or cards or anything, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy these pencils. Of course you deserve a high quality pencil, absolutely. But you don't have to spend that much to get good pencils for those purposes, is my opinion. I think that these pencils are really geared toward the professional or the serious, advanced fine artists, and that's who I think these are best for. And again, I did want to mention just briefly one last time that because these pencils are a little harder, if you have chronic hand pain, arthritis, fibromyalgia, whatever it might happen to be, they might not be your pencil. I just want to be really honest about that, because I don't think enough people really touch on that point. But they're certainly not unpleasant to work with, and I really did love swatching them all out, and I did enjoy doing the piece that I did with them so far. I wish I had that to show you, but I don't, unfortunately. Just to recap some of my final thoughts here, I think the colors are very strong, very vibrant. I love that most of them are Lightfast, and that information is right on every pencil, so you don't have to go hunting around for it, because I personally, whether I'm doing a pastel piece or a pencil piece, whatever it is, I will research the pigment information for every single stick. That's how serious I am about it. And I like to know exactly what's going into every piece. And you might be that way also. Now you've got that peace of mind, and it's convenient, and it's right there. The cores are very thick. You're getting a lot of value, I think, in every pencil. They're very nicely weighted. They feel good in the hand, very balanced. They feel very high quality. The wood is very high quality, and I've never had one break in any of the pencils that I have, and I've got a lot from that brand. And Faber Castell is one of my favorite artist brands, and I'll always continue to purchase from them. So overall, I would 100% recommend these pencils. I think that if you bought a set of them, you wouldn't be disappointed. I really love the colors. They're very strong, they're very punchy, and I'm so excited to work with them. I'm inspired by these colors. Sometimes you get a set, whether it's artist grade or not, and sometimes the colors in there, some of them are like so kind of candy-like that they're not usable. I really think that most of the colors in here, with the exception of that one, they're very fine art colors, you know, very usable. I'm very geared and attracted toward these colors. I like the selection. I wish there was more pastels, but you know, you can't have everything. So I really do like them. I recommend them 100%. They're excellent quality and I don't think you'd be disappointed with them. If you have any more questions about these pencils, something I didn't cover, leave them in the comment section down below. I'll do my best to answer as quickly as possible. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe before you leave. I'd really appreciate it. And don't forget that I am going to be doing a review on the pan pastels coming up very soon, where I'll be using these pencils in conjunction with them. And I'll be demonstrating that on a scrap of pastel matte paper. So you can see how all those things kind of come together. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, have a great day.